Some stories feel too strange to be real and too detailed to ignore. These were sent to me by people who swear they really happened. Whether they're true or not, I'll let you decide. But if they are, you might want to leave a light on tonight. Welcome to Whispers After Dark, where shadows talk and the night listens. Take a moment to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and settle in. These are the stories they say really happened. This story was sent to me last fall by a man who said it happened when he was 16. He got lost in an old mine that had been sealed for decades, off limits, abandoned, the kind of place kids dare each other to explore. He swears something was down there, something that doesn't kill you, at least not in the way you think. It waits in the dark, just past the last shaft, listening. And when you finally hear it breathe behind you, it's already too late. He says he made it out, but the dreams tell a different story. In them, he's still down there, lost in the dark, which means the thing that walked out wasn't him. So I'll just call this story It Lurks in the Mine, and I'll tell it in his own words. I didn't want to go down there. Let me just start by saying that if anyone reads this or finds this post or whatever, I want it to be clear. I knew it was a bad idea. Maybe it's not even me writing this. But when you're 16, stupid, and trying to impress the kind of people who wouldn't flinch at a rusty no trespassing sign, you tend to do things you regret. The old Durston mine sits about 4 miles outside town. Technically, it's sealed off, fencing, warning signs, even a padlocked gate. But that never stopped anyone. Not the teenagers who carved their names into the rocks out front. Not the ghost hunters who came once and claimed they saw a shadow with eyes. And definitely not the group I was with. Danny, Connor, and Jace. They had flashlights, backpacks, and a printed map someone's older brother found online from back when the mine was still operational. We met up around 10 p.m. Danny had bolt cutters. That should have been my second clue to leave. The first was when my mom texted earlier that day just to say she had a weird feeling and wanted me home by dark. I went anyway. Stupid, now that I think about it. But as they say, hindsight's 20/20. The mine smelled like wet metal and earth, old and hollow. We ducked through the entrance and followed a narrow tunnel that opened into a huge cavern supported by cracked beams and blackened stone. The air felt wrong, too still, too quiet. Our lights bobbed across the walls, picking up scraps of old mining equipment and graffiti that looked too recent to belong to the past. Connor started filming on his phone. Jace made jokes. Danny kept checking the map. I tried to play along, but something wasn't right. The deeper we went, the heavier the air felt, like it was pressing down on us. And somewhere behind us, something was following. About 20 minutes in, we hit a split in the path. One side was caved in, nothing but rubble and rusted beams. The other dipped sharply into a deeper tunnel, sloping down like the throat of something waiting to swallow us. That's when the cold hit. Not a breeze, not a chill from damp stone. This was dense, like walking into a freezer filled with someone else's breath. The air clung to my skin, wet and sharp, and the smell, it was wrong. Metallic, sour, like iron left soaking in something dead. Danny wanted to keep going. Of course he did. Said we were close to the lowest shaft, maybe even the old cart system. Jace hesitated but followed. Connor laughed and asked if I was scared. I didn't answer, just followed them, flashlight trembling in my hands. And that's when things started to shift. I blinked, and suddenly the tunnel ahead of me was empty. Gone. Like they'd turned a corner I never saw. But there was no corner. I ran forward, yelling their names. The echoes bounced back wrong, off-key, too fast, like they were chasing me. No footsteps, no voices, just black. Panicked, I turned around, thinking maybe I passed them somehow. But the tunnel behind me wasn't right either. I know how that sounds, but it looked different, felt different, like the shape of the space had changed while I wasn't looking. I walked and walked, minutes, hours, I don't know. Every intersection looked the same. Every corridor led nowhere. And every so often, I'd hear footsteps. Not mine, too close, too slow. I'd spin around, light flickering, and see nothing. Just rock, just silence. And the dust still hanging in the air, like the mine was holding its breath. Eventually, I stumbled into what must have been an old equipment room. Rusted desk, busted lamp, crates of tools collapsed into brown flakes. I sank to the floor, leaned against the wall, and tried to breathe. But time was wrong down there. I'd close my eyes for what felt like a minute, open them, and the darkness would feel closer, thicker, like it had crept in to listen. I found a nub of chalk on the ground and started marking arrows, my name, little X's, anything to keep track. But the marks never stayed. Sometimes they just vanished. Other times they twisted, pointing me back the way I'd come. Once I followed my own arrow in a perfect circle 3 times before I realized it now aimed behind me, as if something wanted me to turn around. I screamed for the guys, begged, pleaded. The mine answered. Not with voices at first. It started as a slow scrape, drag, scrape, like nails raking stone. My flashlight jerked toward the sound, and I caught a glimpse of something long and pale sliding across the wall, moving without legs, folding itself in ways a body shouldn't. I ran, slipped, hit my head on a low beam. Warm blood blurred my vision. The light sputtered out. In the total dark, I heard it breathing, like it was right against my ear, tasting the air I left behind. Then the whispers began, broken, unfinished words, something trying to remember how to speak. And finally, slow and wet, it found its voice. Let me out. I didn't know what it meant. I just knew it had been waiting, and I was alone. The mine, it wasn't just a mine anymore. It was something else, a space outside of time, a trap, maybe, or a mouth. Eventually I found a round chamber, like a pocket of space the mine forgot. It smelled like rot and rust and something old pretending to be asleep. I sat against the wall, knees to my chest, flashlight long dead, and waited to die, or wake up. I wasn't sure anymore, and that's when I heard it again. The scraping, slow, closer now, not from a tunnel, from the wall itself. Something pale uncoiled out of the stone, like it had been part of it. Long limbs bending the wrong way, slick with dust and something darker. It didn't walk. It dragged itself, ribs shifting beneath paper-thin skin, elbows clicking as it crawled like a spider that had forgotten how to be human. And then, it looked at me. Its eyes weren't eyes, just black pits, too deep, too wide, like if I stared too long I'd fall through them. It stopped inches from my face, tilted its head like it was studying me, or deciding. Then, light. Real light. Daylight bleeding through a crack in the ceiling above me. I don't remember climbing, just bleeding hands, torn shirt, the weight of something watching as I pulled myself up through the stone. But somehow, I got out. Later I found out 3 boys had been pulled from the woods near the mine, disoriented, dehydrated, confused. They said they'd gone down, but that I never followed. Said I chickened out at the entrance. Said I just disappeared. They didn't remember hearing me, didn't remember splitting up, but I remember. And sometimes when I try to sleep, I still hear the scraping, or worse, the whisper that found me in the dark. I didn't understand what it meant then, but I think I do now. Because ever since I came out, the sun doesn't feel quite as warm, food doesn't taste the same. Time moves strange, and sometimes I wake up with dirt under my nails and dust in my mouth. What if I never left? What if something else did? What if I'm still down there, lost, screaming into the dark, and whatever got out is wearing my face, living in my skin, smiling with my mouth, and no one's noticed the difference? This story was sent to me a few weeks ago by a man who said he doesn't care if anyone believes him, he just wants it off his chest. He asked me to share it exactly how he wrote it. According to him, it started with a dead deer and ended with something much worse. He says the thing that came from the fire has been following him ever since. Whether it really happened or not, I'll leave that up to you. But he swears it's true, and these are his words. I will just call this story Burned Bones. My name is not important, but what is important is the fact that we should have never burned the deer. It was already dead when we found it, laid out too carefully just beyond the gravel loop on my uncle's land, not mangled, not torn. Just there, stretched out like someone had posed it, eyes wide, staring at the woods. Uncle Ray didn't like the look of it, said it might be diseased. "Let the buzzards take it," he muttered. "If they don't, we burn it." But nothing came. No flies, no ants, no crows, not even the damned coyotes that roamed the woods at night. For 3 days it just sat there, rotting without decay, swelling without scent, like it wasn't really dead, like it was waiting. So we dragged it to the old burn pit. Same place Uncle Ray tossed dead brush, busted furniture, and the odd raccoon carcass. We doused the deer in kerosene and lit a match. That was the first time the fire whined, not crackled, not roared, whined, high and thin like something screaming through its teeth. Uncle Ray went pale, said the last time he heard that sound, he was 12, and it came that night. I was sitting on the back steps when I saw it, tall and bone-thin, just outside the tree line, skin like cinders. No face, just indentations, like it had worn one once and forgotten how to wear it again. It didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there, watching the smoking pile. And I watched it back, frozen, until I blinked and it was gone. The next night it was closer, still, watching. Then came the knocking. Always at 3:17 a.m., always 3 knocks, always on my bedroom window, not the door. I'd looked nothing, but I knew. It was the thing from the fire. Uncle Ray stopped sleeping, said he heard voices in the wind, whispers in the walls, said the deer wasn't natural, that sometimes animals are used, vessels for the thing that watches us. "It marks you," he said. "Once you burn its vessel, it needs another. Me, you, maybe another deer. It chooses, then it takes." He told me about the first burn, how his father cleared a patch of woods and unearthed something buried in twisted roots, bones wrapped in leathery skin, things that didn't belong, hooves, horns, human teeth strung like rosary beads. They thought it was a native burial mound at first, but it wasn't. Not humans, not anymore. His father torched it all, said the screams were just sap in the stumps. But after that night, they started seeing it. And every few years, something else would die strange, laid out perfect and still. And if they burned it, the watching started again. We left the next morning, drove until the trees changed shape, and the smell of smoke left our clothes. I never went back. But last week, I found a deer behind my apartment by the dumpster, laid out just like before. No blood, no wounds, eyes open, watching the woods. I didn't burn it, I ran, and I've been running ever since. But it always seems to find me. Now every time I close my eyes, I see it, standing at the edge of the trees, silent, waiting. And some nights, I wake up to find the front door ajar, and ash prints on my floor. And I wonder, what if I never really left that place? What if I'm still lying in the dirt beside the burn pile, and whatever's wearing my skin now is just waiting to be fed again? This story was sent to me by someone who asked that I change the details of the town and use only their first name. Out of respect, and maybe a little fear, I've done both. The setting you'll hear about is called Black Hollow. But according to the sender, the real place is worse. She wanted me to read her story told exactly the way it happened, in her own words. Whether you believe it or not, I'll leave that up to you. But she swears this is true. My name is Katie. I got the job because no one else wanted it. It was part of a journalism internship in a small Appalachian mountain town called Black Hollow. You've probably never heard of it. Most people haven't. It's the kind of place that doesn't show up on maps unless you already know where to look. And even then, it feels like you're not supposed to find it. Let's call the newspaper the Black Hollow Gazette. Believe me, it barely qualified as journalism. 8 pages a week, if that. Mostly classifieds, seasonal hunting updates, some old-timer writing about trout fishing, a crossword puzzle that never changed, and the obituaries. That's what I was assigned to, recording the obits for the Gazette's audio digest. The editor said folks liked to listen in the evenings while they made dinner or sat on the porch. I guess hearing familiar names spoken out loud made death feel a little more personal, or maybe a little less so. I thought it would be easy. Read a few paragraphs into a mic, cut the file, hand it off. Quiet work, no pressure. The kind of job where your brain doesn't even need to show up. At the time, that's exactly what I needed. But that town, it doesn't give you what you need. It gives you what it wants. See, the Gazette didn't just get its obituaries from families or funeral homes. That's what I expected. Instead, every few nights, a fresh batch would appear in the drop box outside the front door. No return address, no sender, no envelope, just a stack of typewritten slips on yellow paper, clean and precise, always slipped in after hours. We never caught whoever left them. And here's the thing, they were always right. The names, the dates, the causes of death, every detail, verified by the funeral home or the sheriff's office days after we ran them. And I'm not talking about generic old age notices either. These were specific, vivid, died in his sleep after a burst blood vessel in the brain, struck by lightning while collecting firewood, electrocuted by a downed power line, drowned in 4 inches of water when they slipped on a rock fishing. Some weirdly strange deaths, some normal, yet no one questioned the accuracy. The town just accepted it. At first I didn't notice anything strange. I was just reading from a script, but then I started recognizing names. Someone I'd bought gas from the day before, the woman who owned the bakery where I bought donuts and coffee at that morning. And once, a guy who'd been standing next to me at the post office while I was holding the obituary with his name on it. He died that night. Car accident, single vehicle, no witnesses. That's when I started paying attention. And that's when things stopped making sense. Some of the slips had future dates. I didn't catch it at first, but once I noticed, I couldn't stop checking. The cause of death would read something like heart failure during breakfast, and then 3 days later, boom, confirmed. Time of death, exact. Like whoever was writing these wasn't guessing. They were documenting things that hadn't happened yet. I brought it up to Mr. Kell, the editor. He didn't even flinch. "It's just how things run up here," he said, eyes fixed on his old, rattling desk fan. "You read what's on the paper, and you don't go digging where no one's buried yet." I thought he was joking, or just tired. He looked like a man who hadn't slept through the night in years, but there was something in the way he said it, flat, final, like he meant it. Then came the week we got 14 slips. 14 names, all from town, all dead within 5 days. The town went quiet, stores closed early, no one made eye contact. Kell worked late and left early, and I swear he flinched every time the drop box creaked. After that, I stopped reading the names before I recorded them. Just sat in the booth, hit record, and treated it like a script. Because if I didn't read them, I didn't know them. And if I didn't know them, I didn't have to wonder how long they had left. Until the day I saw my own, it was sitting right on top of the stack. Yellow paper, my name, Katie, age 22. Cause of death, died in sleep. No typo, no joke. My name, my age. I stared at it so long I forgot how to breathe. Then I brought it to Kell's office, hands shaking. He glanced at it once, just once, and then looked up at me like he'd already seen it coming. "You should go home early today," he said. That was it. No panic, no concerns. Just that same weary voice, like this had happened before. And maybe it had. That was a Tuesday. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. My body felt heavy, like the air around me already knew what was coming. I unplugged the microwave because the hum made me jump, stopped answering the phone. Every creak in the floorboards felt like footsteps, but nothing happened. The slip said I'd die in my sleep, so I stayed awake, for days. Red-eyed, barely thinking, clutching that stupid obituary and waiting for something to come through the door. It didn't. A week passed, then 2. I started to think maybe it was a mistake. Maybe someone else shared my name, Maybe I dodged it. I was still alive, right? Then I found the second slip. Same name, same age, same cause of death. But the date had changed. It had been updated. I left the next morning, cleared out my apartment in under an hour, told no one, deleted every recording from the Gazette's servers, smashed the flash drive I used to back them up, started over somewhere new. But the slips still come. Mailed now, folded neatly, no return address. One every few months. They all say the same thing, except I am just a couple of years older. Katie, age 24, died in sleep. The date is always different, always pushed forward, but the name never changes. Last night, I woke at 3:17 a.m. and found one tucked under my pillow. I live alone. No one has this address. No one should even know where I am. But it found me. So if I don't wake up tomorrow, I guess this post is my obituary. I don't know who's writing them. I don't know how. But I think I finally understand what Mr. Kell meant that first week. Sometimes the mountain gives you time to say goodbye. This story was sent to me by a former park ranger who asked that I share it exactly the way he wrote it. He didn't want to be contacted, didn't ask for credit, just said the story needed to be told. And maybe, if anyone else had heard the same voice on Channel 9, they'd finally know they weren't alone. I've changed the location details for privacy, but the rest is in his own words. Whether it really happened, I'll let you decide. But he swears it did. And after reading it, I almost believe him. Most people think park rangers just pick up trash and check permits. That's fine. Let them think that. The truth is, if you work backcountry long enough, especially in places like Black Hollow, you learn your job isn't to protect people from the forest. It's to protect the forest from the people who don't belong there. I started hearing the voices during my second season. At first, I blamed stress. I was pulling 12-hour shifts during fire season, rotating towers, chasing off hikers who thought trail markers were optional. I barely slept. The radios were cheap and outdated. Static was normal. But this was different. This was Channel 9. No one used it anymore. It was an old emergency frequency, long phased out. Even the newer radios didn't pick it up unless you tuned manually. But one night, sitting alone at Watchtower 6, it clicked on. No warning. Just a low, broken voice whispering something I couldn't make out. I turned it off. Then on again. Silence. A week later, it came back. He's still in the trees, watching. I froze. Sat there for 10 minutes, staring at the handheld like it might say something else. When I mentioned it to one of the senior rangers, he just raised an eyebrow. Channel 9, huh? Then he muttered, "Don't go tuning into that one too often." That was the end of that conversation. I thought maybe it was a prank, some local screwing with us. But it kept happening. Always at night. Always when I was alone. Sometimes it gave coordinates. Sometimes I heard breathing through the static. Once, a child's voice said my name, twice. I started logging it, dates, times, anything I could catch. No one believed me. Dispatch said it was probably signal bounce. But then Ranger McCallie went missing. He'd been stationed at Post 12, deep on the eastern ridge. It was old, rarely used except during lightning season. He checked in that morning. Clear skies, no issues. By nightfall, silence. No gear disturbed, no signs of struggle. Just his radio turned to Channel 9, crackling softly. I picked it up myself. No words, just the same breathless static like someone trying to speak without lungs. I don't know if it was guilt or obsession, but I volunteered to cover Post 12. Stayed there 3 weeks. First night, nothing. Second night, a windstorm knocked down the old antenna and scared the hell out of me. Third night, Channel 9 came alive again. He knows your name now. After that, I stopped sleeping. Every groan of the floorboard sounded like footsteps. Every gust of wind felt like a voice I couldn't quite hear. I saw shapes between the trees, tall, still, wrong. I told myself I was imagining it. Then came the coordinates. They whispered at first, then repeated twice a night for 3 nights in a row. They pointed to a part of the forest outside our jurisdiction. off the official map. Most of the younger rangers didn't even know it existed, but I did. There used to be a station there, Station E, condemned years ago after a rock slide, trail marked unsafe, supposedly destroyed, but something wanted me to go back, so I went. I didn't report it, just packed a radio, a flashlight, and enough stubborn stupidity to ignore the weight pressing on my chest. The hike was longer than it should have been. Trails forked where they shouldn't. My GPS glitched. Compass spun, but I made it. The cabin was standing, not collapsed, not damaged, just clean, preserved, like it had been waiting. The door creaked open without resistance. The floors were dustless. The air was cold and stale. The lights were on, dim yellow, humming softly. There was a desk, a logbook, a radio, already tuned to Channel 9. The logbook was open. One line was written across a fresh page. Ranger Caleb Owens, entry confirmed. No other names listed since 1992. That's when I realized it had already written me in, like it knew I'd come, like it had been waiting for me all along. I turned to leave, but the door was closed. I don't remember opening it. I don't remember the hike back, but somehow I made it out. Sort of. Kellerman didn't believe me, but he didn't ask questions either. I transferred out a few months later and figured that would be the end of it. But I still hear Channel 9. Not often, just now and then. Last week, it came through again. The voice was calm, familiar. You were supposed to stay. And then I heard the door creak closed, and someone else, someone with my voice, whispered back, I never left. Are these stories true? Maybe. I'll let you decide. But there's a point where myth and legend bleed into reality, because stories don't come from nothing. They come from somewhere, from something. Everyone has a story. Me, you. Sometimes we tell them, sometimes we're too afraid to. Do you have a story you want me to tell? Leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching this episode of Whispers After Dark. If you enjoyed these chilling tales, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a story. Our time is over for now, my friends. Join me for our next Storytime episode, and remember, when the shadows talk, the night listens.